Tierra del Fuego was discovered by the Portuguese explorer Magellan in 1520. He called the country the Land of Fire, with a reference to the bonfires of the native Indians. The European era of great explorers is over, but there is one new discovery. One worth traveling for. A discovery that's the source of legends about Tierra del Fuego. This is the one, the Salmotruta. The world's largest rod-caught sea trout weighed 34 pounds and was caught in Rio Grande, where all catches are released again as part of the river's catch and release policy. In Fly Fishing Academy Volume 1, we went salmon fishing in Iceland. In Fly Fishing Academy Volume 2, we'll go to the Rio Grande in Argentina's Patagonia region. Here at the world's best trout river, fishing is very varied. We have to use everything from small nymphs and dry flies to large, bushy evening flies. Henrik Mortensen will be your instructor in distance and delicacy. In Fly Fishing Academy Volume 1, Henrik showed casting techniques with single and double-handed rods. In this film, he'll use both types in practice, and he'll use overhand as well as underhand casts.
The type of cast I'll use here in a situation like this is a combination between an underhand cast and an overhead cast. I have plenty of room to do an overhead cast here, so why not do it? I mean, it should not be a religion doing an underhand cast and fishing at the same time. So what I do here is I lift it up, do the underhand cast forward, put the line up in the back cast, and go with the overhead cast. The overhead cast is actually very precise because it gives you a lot of time to put the fly down precise.
Rio Grande may not offer major obstacles in the shape of trees or steep rocks near the shore. And perhaps the river doesn't look too demanding on a quiet summer's day in February. However, the fly fisherman may still have to change his tactics several times a day, and this means changing rod types.
This is a great benefit when you're using the double hand rod on wide rivers like this. You can go and work it so easily. You don't use an energy or anything like that. You put the fly over, put it down next to the other bank, let it come down a little bit, let it come over.
The advantage of using a single-handed rod is that you can work more efficiently with your fly, whether you're hitching or using a dry fly or nymph. In a relatively slow river like Rio Grande, it's necessary to work more with the fly than in a fast-flowing river.
Comes out fishy, fishy, fishy. Oh! Up. Got it. This is more the size we're talking about. I guess the small fish didn't really ruin the pool. I have to get down on the side of him. He's going in a channel on the other side. Very good sized fish. Very good fish. I haven't seen him yet. He's a decent fish, that's for sure. There he comes. Oh, very nice fish. I just tip him over on the side. If I tip him on the side, then I can keep him there. Very nice fish. Very nice. Beautiful trout. Beautiful sea trout. See the depth on his back, or white is. Extremely strong fish. Extremely strong.
Henrik Mortensen is one of the world's finest fly fishermen. For nearly 20 years, he's been a casting and strategy instructor. He reads the currents like an open book.
What we're doing here is just like fishing in Norway, Sweden, Iceland, Salmon River, like all over the world. Fishing down a neck, and we'd have small pockets. And in these pockets, the fish is standing resting. And it's a good chance that you can get a fish because they're pretty aggressive when they're standing a neck.
For the past 10 years, he's worked as an instructor at some of the world's very best salmon rivers in Iceland, Scotland, Scandinavia and North America. Since 2002, he's been the chief designer and developer of rods, lines and reels at Sierra. His catch record counts more than 6,000 trout and 2,400 salmon. Just like Volume 1 of Fly Fishing Academy, this film will demonstrate casting techniques at a typical Scandinavian river with lots of trees and rocks as obstacles. As a rule, it's expensive to visit good fishing waters, and in order for you to profit the most from your fishing trip, it's important that you're well prepared when you finally embark on the vacation of your dreams. In Fly Fishing Academy Volume 2, we'll expand on the most basic casts we demonstrated in Volume 1. We'll further develop the underhand cast and details in connection with the casting technique.
In Volume 1, we showed you how to do the underhand cast with a combination between arms and body. First, we showed you how to do it with the arms alone. It looked like this. This is only the arms working. I'm not using the body at all. Then we showed you how to do the body alone. Same movement, but this is just the body working. Only the body. You tip back and you tip forward. Kind of twist it a little bit. One more move, like this. Then we showed you how to combine these two, using the body and the arms together. And then it looked like this. And we discovered that the look came out much more quiet and much more nice. And it was a much more pleasant movement, actually, because you could do it much calmer this. One thing you always have to remember, though, is to keep the rod vertical. That means if I cast 45 degrees downstream, I kind of push the butt of the rod towards my right elbow. So it looks like this. In this way, the rod will be vertical. And that means the line which comes below comes up and be the upper line and lies just over the underline. When I angle up more than 45 degrees sometimes, I lift it up and do this movement here. What you don't do here is taking the rod around horizontal. A lot of people do that when they do this movement. They push the rod around horizontal, and that means the loop is going to come out sideways and you're going to lose all the energy in it. You go back here, that's the right movement, but then you put the rod in like this, and then you're vertical when you go out. Like this, and then out. Let me show you how to do it. Lift the rod out, go around, put the rod vertical, and then put it out, like this. This way, the loop comes straight out, and you cast across.
In Distance and Delicacy, Henrik will offer good advice on how to use your casts at the river and how to avoid spoiling your chances of a catch.
When people have to angle up, trying to cast across, straight across, they sometimes do this to the pool they fish in. They kind of put the line down at a lot of false cast, and every time you do this, you actually disturb the fishing. And now they're about ready, and then they send it out. But this cast is not even worth casting, because you've just disturbed the whole pool, and actually the fish is kind of gone from this pool. What you actually have to do here is to keep on fishing the line all the way into your own bank, which a lot of people don't do, and then you kind of lift the rod very slow, because then you actually fish the fly here on this side. And if you then do a false cast out like this, pulling it back, putting it down, then putting the cast out, There's also another way you can do it. Let me show you another option. Put the line down again. This is also kind of a false cast. I still lift it up, go back, do an underhand cast, angle it in the air, pull it back, and then send it back in again. Then you don't have any cast in this area here. And that is what it's all about. And that'll be much more efficient if you fish like this. Never cast in this angle where you actually fish in.
Buenos Aires. With a population of more than 12 million, the Argentine capital is one of the world's largest cities. The wide, clean boulevards in the heart of Buenos Aires are without the traffic congestion that normally pesters cities of this size. For most people, Argentina is synonymous with tango, superior beef, and European-style football. In the home of the tango, boys dream of following in the footsteps of one of the country's living legends, the football player Diego Maradona. Maradona had his heyday in the 1980s and 1990s. Still, his name and portrait are prominent at souvenir stands near the stadium of his old club, Boca Juniors. More than anywhere else in the country, he's an icon, an idol here, the world's best football player ever. In the pleasant Latin atmosphere of Buenos Aires, it's hard to imagine that Argentina has achieved a new status, that as the home of the world's largest sea trout caught by rod. Such a status would normally fall to a country with a somewhat cooler climate. And it's even more surprising since the trout, Salmotruta, is not a natural part of Argentina's fauna. It was introduced in the country about 100 years ago. In order to find the trout, however, we must venture far south of Buenos Aires, 2,700 kilometers to the southernmost part of Patagonia and Argentina, to the Rio Grande River and the town of the same name in Tierra del Fuego. Rio Grande is a wonderful trout river. Still, even a fly fisherman with a record like Henrik's must work hard to get his fish. The changeable weather is highly demanding. One day sees temperatures of 27 degrees Celsius, while the water's about 20 degrees. Only a day and a half later, the wind has turned to a southerly direction and rolled a cold, thick blanket of hoarfrost over the landscape. Such a morning, Rio Grande is enveloped in fog and the water's suddenly below 10 degrees. Not only temperatures vary, the wind does too. Once the sun has warmed Tierra del Fuego, special weather conditions cause the wind to come sweeping down from the snow-clad Andes mountains to the west, or from the mountains around the Magellan Straits in the north. The wind is a factor that all fly fishermen in Tierra del Fuego must take into account.
A lot of people say that Argentina, we're around, oh, it's a lot of wind, you know, I don't really want to go there because, you know, casting in the wind is terrible. One thing, for the first, to have a huge beach in Rio Grande. And that means you can always get on a beat where you actually can get the wind behind you. Another thing is, if you adjust your casting technique according to where the wind comes from, then you can fish anywhere. That's also why, I mean, you know, work a lot on your casting techniques. Work with both hands. You can cast with both hands, both left hand and right hand. And when you achieve that, you don't care about the wind. The wind is just a mental problem then.
In most pools in Rio Grande, the strategy is simple. The cast must reach the opposite side to the deep channel.
This is probably the heaviest, or the strongest fish I've had until now. He really pulled. He went far down. Ah, it's cooked. Beautiful colored cockfish. Very hard to turn. Now we got him. Beautiful fish. Awesome fish. Beautiful cockfish. Beautiful. I think he's hooked out. He really gave me a long run. This is an 18-pounder fish. Really deep, really heavy. We gotta get him out because he used a lot of oxygen when he was doing this, and the temperature is still not too high in the river. You gotta make sure that he breathes while I enjoy him. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Come on. How are you feeling? Okay, a little dizzy? No wonder. Beautiful fish. Just support them here in the start so they have their balance. Make sure they swim. Don't just leave them. Just make sure that they swim out like this. Fantastic. This is some of the things that Rio Grande is well known for. Big fish, an average over 12 pounds. And they fight extremely well. See still power in this fish. Beautiful.
We have records, world records for every size tippet in this river, and we have the largest sea trout caught, and which was in '99.
It's simply the best sea trout river in the world. There is no sea trout river which can offer average weight of a sea trout between 9 and 12 pounds, and all the biggest sea trout, all the world records, all come from Rio Grande. The biggest one in the world, 34 pound, and they catch every year 30, 32, 33 pounders. And it's not unusual issue that the guest catch one 20 pounder or even two 20 pounders or over for a week. And this is the only place in the world which this can happen.
The conditions at Rio Grande force Henrik to break one of his fundamental fly fishing principles, that of using a short line.
I prefer to fish on a shorter line. The shorter line, it's just much easier to control the fly. But many times you get into situations where you have to do a long cast. And in this situation it is necessary because I have to get to the other bank and get the fly come out from that one. And I cannot go on the other bank and fish because the fish will see me then and I'll spook them because they're standing on the other side. Put the fly down there, let it come down into the channel and let it come out of the channel. Small moves. And it all comes down to one thing. All about catching fish, all about presenting the fly the right way. As I've said before, I'll say again, a perfect cast is something to do about catching a fish, not something to do about making a beautiful cast. Seems like new fresh fish is arriving because we have a lot of fish jumping in the lower part of the pool. So now you want to keep the fly in the pool, that's for sure. Sometimes it can be poisonous actually to cast upstream. Send the fly way upstream across. Let it come down and just strip it in, just small strips. To show them the fly from different angles all the time. Yeah, got it. Worked. It's important to always try different techniques. You know, we went down just across and swing over. Now I tried upstream and nymphed it back, and it worked. That's a great pleasure about this fishing. Just always keep experiencing. Try different things all the time. Never lock yourself down in one system. Never try to copy others. Do something you believe in yourself. Good, powerful fish, this one. And there he is, parked, tipped over, white fish, very white fish. Wow, extraordinary, no doubt. What a fish. Look at how deep he is, how white he is. Beautiful. See, changing the techniques, doing the upstream, is so important sometimes. Don't lock yourself down in one system. Change it all the time. Change the technique on the place. Show the fly in so many different kind of angles. And you get these results. That's what it's all about. Yeah, got him. I knew he was there. Just had to change the technique several times to get it. I've been over him a couple of times, just with like normal swing across. And then I changed to casting a little upstreams and then nymph it over him. And he went down for that immediately. That he couldn't stand. That's a great thing about this kind of fishing. It's like you change it and then you get a result. Ah, he went off. But that's fine. I got the best of it. What we're doing now is we've got a smaller fish. I'd like to track this out of the pool because I've seen really big fish up there. So I don't want to fight the small fish in the pool. So you can make a lot of noise fish like that. And it is so calm when we come in tonight. So if you get a small fish, drag it out of the pool and fight it somewhere else. Because we are going for the big ones. Let's see if this is bigger. It was a better take though than the previous one we had. He's a good fighter at least, that's for sure. You never know here at the dock. You can feel they're heavy though, but tremendous good fighter. This one here. He's getting a little weak now. He also made some good runs. It takes a lot of energy out of him. He's not quite ready yet. There we got him. Come on. There you are. Good. This is typically here at night, you know, you get the cockfish, the colored cockfish, because they're spawning, and that's when they get really aggressive. Beautiful cockfish. Very colored though. That's why they fight extremely well, these cockfish. Beautiful fish, absolutely. He's been in the river for quite some time. We'll give him his freedom again. He's got a job to do here.
The fly fisherman encounters new challenges at each individual river. At Rio Grande, it's the wind. Without warning, it can explode from calm to strong breeze, or even worse.
The weather has changed now, and I have a very strong wind coming in from the back. And that means if I do an overhead cast here, the line and the fly will always hit me in the back. It's impossible to pick the line up and throw it in the back. So what I do instead is do the underhand cast here. Using the underhand cast here, I'll never take the line behind me. And actually I can lift it up very light, put it down, just let it go forward, holding the rod up, and actually the fly goes over. See, that makes it much more easy to fish this way. And you don't have to fight the wind. The wind is actually helping you here. So this is a situation where you have the wind in the back. Another thing is, when you fish in hard, strong wind like this, keep the rod top down, because if you have the rod top up, the line and the fly will just skate. And you can't control the fly. You have no connection with the fly. So remember those two things. Keep the rod top down, and then just do the underhand cast instead. Lifting it up slowly, putting it around, not fighting the wind, putting it down, and then lifting it, going out. Easy. Back to fishing.
It's the sudden weather changes that really put the fly fisherman to his test. Were many hours of practice enough? It's in this type of weather the fish become aggressive and willing to rise. The Portuguese explorer Magellan was the first European to experience the sight of the bonfires of the native Ona Indians. In 1520, he sailed through the strait between the mainland and the southern island. He named the island Tierra del Fuego. Nearly half a millennium has passed, and the bonfires are no longer burning. The Indians have gone. Tierra del Fuego is divided between Argentina and Chile. The Argentine part is about half the size of Denmark. The condor rules the sky above Tierra del Fuego. It's one of the world's largest birds, its wings spanning more than 3 meters. Another large native bird is the caracara, a falcon that also feeds on carrion. The beaver family lives along the river. Flocks of Magellan geese stay close to the river. There are insects in Tierra del Fuego, but no mosquitoes. The climate is too harsh. All around the lowland plains roams the guanaco, the less famous cousin of the llama. The Indians made their bonfires from the characteristic southern beech. According to legend, the Ona Indians were naked. The Europeans taught them to wear clothes, and that spelled the death of the tribe. When their clothes got wet, the Indians were susceptible to infection, and they died from common diseases. But it's only a legend. Reality is different, and indeed far more brutal. The Ona people became extinct about 100 years ago. Most died during large epidemics of children's diseases against which they had no resistance. Farmers killed the rest because they stole animals from the large farms that shot up in Tierra del Fuego in the early 20th century. No matter whether the challenge is exotic fishing for the world's largest sea trout in Argentina,
Small fish.
or brown trout in the local creek, your equipment must be optimally composed.
Today there's two different kind of lines in the world. There's one called double saber, there's one called weight forward. I prefer the weight forward line. It consists of a running line, and it consists of a belly, and then also it has a front tapering, and then we have a leader in front of it. If we look at that, then you can see that we have the running line first, which is a level piece. Then we have a floating belly, in this case here, and then we have a leader which we put in front of it. If we add some extra bellies, we can add a belly, for example, which has a clear tip. It could be a belly like this with a clear tip, which is called floating intermediate. If we add a sinking line also, then we have 3 different densities. And if you also have 3 different kind of leaders, you can attach a super fast sinking, and an intermediate. Then you have 9 different ways actually you can present the fly in. You have 9 different combinations you can put together. But it is still a weight forward. Most people would call this a shooting head system. I still see it as a weight forward. I actually see it as a modified weight forward, which gives me the possibility to present the fly 9 different ways, but always have the same cast. Yeah. Got him.
If you're in any doubt as to how to compose your line, a good tackle shop will guide you.
Why I was fishing this fish so hard was because this was a small fish and I dragged it out of the pool so it didn't splash around in the pool. I want to keep my chances to get the big one. So let him go back.
There are many ways of putting together a fly line. The advantage of the modified weight forward system is that you can change the line continually so that it always matches the conditions. A somewhat neglected combination is to use sinking line.
A lot of people do not fish sinking lines because they think it's very hard to handle. I think most of the problems they have is due to wrong gear adjustment. If you have the right gear adjustment, it's actually really simple to lift the sinking line off the water. What people tend to do when they fish with a sinking line is trying to roll it out of the water. And when you roll it out of the water, you disturb the water a lot. And you always roll into the zone where you actually fish in. And then finally you send it out. In this way, it's not even worth sending it out. And it doesn't even matter if you roll it in your own side, because the fish is actually in both sides of the river. So even when you roll it down here, you kind of scare the fish on this side, and thereby limits your own chances to get a salmon, or a sea trout for that matter. If you have the right gear adjustment, fishing with a heavy sinking belly, it's actually easy to lift it out of the water and cast it out again. One way is actually you lift it to your left shoulder, then you punch it out and pull it back, put it on the water, and then go out again. You don't disturb the surface in front of you. This is one good way of doing it. Another good way of doing it is actually screwing it out of the water. What I do there, I lift it up like this, and then I kind of cast horizontal, pull it back, set it on the water, and then go out again. In this way, I kind of screw the line out of the water. It does not disturb the water. I put the leader here and just go over in a regular underhand cast. To illustrate this better, I've changed over to a white line instead of a black line. The white line is a floating line, and this gives a more visual effect on what happens when you do those lifts. One of the lifts I did was taking it towards my left shoulder, punching it out, folding it back, putting the leader down, and then shooting across. This was one alternative. I'll show you that one more time. I lifted up towards my left shoulder, punched out, went back, put the leader down, and put it across. I'll show you the other one too. The other one was where I kind of screwed it out of the water, and also where I was casting horizontal into my own side. I lifted up to my right shoulder this time, did a horizontal cast, pull it back, set it on the water, and go across. I'll show you that one more time. Coming from here, lift up to the right shoulder, horizontal, putting it down and shooting it over. If you cast this way, you don't have any fold cast in this area. And this area is only for fishing. And that's the same thing if it comes to a floating line or a sinking line. Sometimes sinking lines is very good, particularly in a place like this, where you have a channel. Actually, the whole thing narrows together. That means, and you don't really have a strong current, that means it's really deep here. So you actually have a deep channel here, and you have a very wide one out, which turns out here. And here it's also very deep. So here I want to have a sinking line because I want to get the fly down. I want to get the fly to come across on the bottom. So it's a good place to fish it here.
As you may have noticed, Henrik's line never gets tangled during fishing. That's because he uses a simple but effective trick.
When you do longer casts, it's very important that you keep some kind of control over your running line. The best way to do that is actually to put it around your fingers in loops. You make a very large loop, you put it on your little finger, then you take a smaller loop, which you put in the larger loop, and then you put that around the next finger. This way you can have a lot of loops hanging inside each other. This way you have two loops hanging down, and they'll be hanging inside each other. And then when you let go of it, they will be released very nice, very easy. And you never get tangled then. It's very easy to shoot and keep control over the line in this way.
But that's not all there is to be said about lines. There's one important detail you must remember if you want your cast and fishing to be optimal.
Right now I'm cleaning my line. It's very important to clean the line. Particularly when you fish for many hours and many days, the line gets dirty and you need to clean it. If you don't clean your line, you have to work much harder with the rod. And that actually ruins both your position on the cast and also the ability to cast longer if it's necessary. And actually many times when you clean even a new line, you cast even better. So this is a thing I do every third day, fourth day where I'm fishing. Because the line is constantly lying on the ground, and you move from dirt, you move from dry land. Even the guides on the rod needs to be cleaned once in a while, also the rod itself. I mean, it's just like when you polish the car. You know how smooth that gets in the surface, you know, and the water just repeals off it. Same thing with a rod. It gets dirty too, and really dry. It is really important to look after your tackle. It's much easier for you then to keep the focus on the fishing. This is still early morning and the water is very calm. It's very undisturbed surface we have here. So I want to like stay a little in and then fish a nymph on the other side. Only concentrate on the other side and out to the middle. And the nymph I want to use on this is a typical Tierra del Fuego nymph. Actually, I don't even know the name of it, but I know Roblex is very good when we fish sea trouts. So this fly I want to get to the opposite side, get it down and then let it come over and just give it a little tick tick once in a while. And that will actually create a lot of interest. Hope so. So let's start doing that. Past the middle. They can still take here though. So don't just lift the line off the water, work it off the water. Oh, got it. Got it. See? Fall for the technique. Oh. Oh, that's the worst when they go down through the pool. See if you can turn the fish up here. Oh yeah, we got him up. He's tipped over. There he is. Beautiful fish again. Oh. Beautiful color for the fish. Absolutely amazing. You have to enjoy them just for a minute when you have them here. Look at them. That's what it's all about. Giving a good fight and then enjoying them. Yeah, got it. Slightly colored fish, but extremely good shape. Deep fish, really fat. I mean, you hardly see this shape of trout anywhere in the world, except here. It is the largest trout of them all, no doubt. Thinking about these small flies they go for, you see, this fly is nothing compared to the fish. Many times people use really huge flies for huge fish, you know, and actually many times small flies is much better than big flies, as this proves, no doubt. Up here the river is very wide, and then it kind of narrows in here, and we have a strong current on the other side, and we have dead weight on this side here in the river. So that means actually we have a channel very close to the other side. Here I'd really like to get the fly down into the channel and coming out of the channel. For that purpose, I'm using a floating line, long leader, and a nymph. And then I'm casting it a little upstream, mending it down, and then following it around, and then giving 1 or 2 nymphs on the way out, or jerks in the line on the way out. I'm going to use a nymph for this one, a very small nymph, because it's still early in the morning. Oh, beautiful jump. A fresh fish. Perfect. He got the nymph. He took it coming right out of the channel. He's really moving. This is what we call a jumper. This is about the 7th time he's been out of the water. He's not going to give in just like that. And I'm putting a lot of pressure on him, actually. But you also have to watch out and not put too much pressure on it when you're working with small nymphs, because you don't know how this hooked. But anyway, I've had the best already. The take, no doubt. Thanks to this, you know, it all comes down to this, you know, getting the fish to take. The excitement before it takes, and when it takes. And the proof of you did something right. Now he's coming. I just want to have him slide up there on the beach. As long as he slide up there and he falls over. There, got him. Beautiful fat fish. You see, he's still not finished, but he was tricked the last meters here. Beautiful fat fish. Easy fish, easy. 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 See how the nymph is sitting there in his mouth? It's just in the lip here. Just in the top of his lip. And this is a good hook because it's very strong here, you know. They don't get off here. I mean, amazing fighters, and see the depth of it. Fantastic. Here we have a very big pool, which is very good for dry fly fishing. We have a calm service. It's a wide pool, and the fish is lying in the bottom here. So we'll try the dry fly here. And up here we have like a channel in the middle, and that you would really like to get the fly down in the channel. It's like you have flat parts on both sides of the river, and then you have the channel in the middle. So if you can get the fly over the channel and down into the channel and coming out of the channel again, then there's a pretty good chance for a strike there. When I fish the dry fly here, I would use what we call the green machine. This is the fly here. It doesn't look like a traditional dry fly, but this is the type of dry fly they use down here. And before I go in with a lots of fly here, deep, I would use the Prince Nymph, which is this one here. Very small fly still, but you know, still even small flies give big fish. And then in the end, I'll use the lots of one, which is this one here. Actually, I don't even know the name of it, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is catch fish. And there's so many flies today that have so many names, and you get new patterns coming out every month, and I just can't keep track of it. I'm more focused on catching the fish than keeping track of the name of the flies. This part of the river I'll fish from the other side. I can use an overhead cast here, and also I can move better down it because you've got a very shallow part from the other side, and that gives me a chance to get closer to the pool without disturbing the fish. Always keep your eyes on the fly. Always look at it. But still remember, do not strike. No matter what, do not strike. Just, this is a fish, you know, it strikes itself. You don't have to do anything what that matters. Just be able to put it out in a straight line. You'll feel the fish when you got it. There's a smaller fish there trying to take it. We don't want those. We want the bigger ones. Oh, you got it. Wonderful take. Oh. Good fish. Two. Beautiful. I mean, it is so exciting when they take. So exciting. It just beats anything. Dry fly fishing, hitching. This is just the best. But always be aware of it's small flies. So you can't really press them too hard. You never know how it looks, how it's hooked. But anyway, again, if you lose them, you lose them, you know, and you got what you wanted. You got the take. The important thing. I just want to release them anyway. That's a powerful take. So extremely good fighters. Just leave them on the fights, like this. Perfect. And he's just, you know, the hook is just outside his mouth, just outside it. It's hardly in anything. He's still well put. Just lie still and I'll give you your freedom. And you can go back in. Great stuff. Hey, wrong way. I think you need a little help now. Or what do you think? You need the help, right? I'll help you. I'll help you. This is the way to go. Bye.
Once it's time for evening fishing, small dry flies like the green machine must be put aside. It's now the large bushy flies who must prove their worth.
Got it. Big fly. When it turns dark at night, you know, you use the big fly. It's a big fly compared to this fish here. This is a nice fish, oh.
The story of Rio Grande's trout stock is a legend of its own. The legend takes us back into history to the era of a century ago when this derelict building at the Buenos Aires harbourfront was new and sparkling. In 1904, a ship came in with an unusual cargo from England. The consignment was fertilized trout eggs. In the 19th century, British fly fishermen had begun to catch and harvest eggs from spawning trout to protect the stocks. And from the middle of the century, they shipped fertilized trout eggs to Australia, New Zealand and North America. Around the turn of the century, the first trout eggs were released in the rivers of Patagonia. The eggs were carried all the way from northern Europe in milk cans and vessels filled with water and moss. The layer of moss was to provide oxygen for the fertilized eggs. But it wasn't until the 1930s that the Argentine trout adventure reached Rio Grande in Tierra del Fuego. The man behind the project was John Goodall, manager of one of the large farms and an impassioned fly fisherman. He ordered the first fertilized trout eggs, which were released in 2 of Rio Grande's feeders. But it still took another 40 to 50 years before the first pioneers found their way to Rio Grande and began to reap the harvest of Goodall's work half a century earlier. Genetically, brown trout and sea trout are the same fish, the salmotruta. Actually, it's a natural anomaly that trout thrives in Rio Grande. There isn't much food in the river.
There's a lack of food which originally encouraged them to move and find the sea in needs of feeding. So the estuary is very, very easy for them to reach and easy because of the tides and so on, and the rich food and the sea.
Very good start, first cast.
The result is amazing. Rio Grande holds the world record in rod-caught trout.
I don't know the reason for this high number of fish coming into this river system, but you see when you are fishing the river, the whole riverbed from the top of the mountain all the way to the sea is spawning ground. So they can spawn basically everywhere. So I think that might be one of the reasons that this high quality spawning ground for them.
Let's repeat it once again. The perfect cast is the cast that prevents the fly most invitingly for the fish, the cast that catches the fish. This is why it's important to be able to cast over your left shoulder with the left hand on top when circumstances dictate.
When you fish on the right bank, you have to keep your left hand above on the rod. It's important because when you cast the line out, you will get the right angle then. That means actually the fly will come to the fish first and not the line. Many people attempt to keep the rod in their right hand above because it's easier for them. But that means when you do it from this bank here, they'll cast much more across. And that means actually the line will come to the fish first and then the fly afterwards, which is not a good presentation. I strongly recommend you learn it with your left hand above here when you're on the right bank. But if you can't do it, there is an alternative to it. You can actually just move the whole concept of casting over to your left side, but keeping the right hand above, like this. Because in this case here, you will still have the right angle on the water, and the fly will still come to the fish first.
The fish must see the fly first, not the line. Sometimes it can be an advantage to fish with a long leader.
When you fish in a wide pool like this, with a calm surface, it's good with very long leaders. As you can see here, this is a double hand rod, and I have 1.5 times the rod length in leader material. And then I have a very small nymph. This is what to get the nymph down and keep the line as far away from the fish as possible. The type of cast we use here is a combination between an underhand cast and an overhead cast. I have plenty of room to do an overhead cast here. And I have much more precision in an overhead cast, so why not do that? So what I do is I lift up and do the underhand cast first. Don't let it go down, keep it in the air, overhead, and sending it over. Mending once. Thing is, this cast is very efficient because the precision on an overhead cast is actually higher than it is on an underhand cast. And what we're talking about is precision here. I have to get the fly as close to the other bank as possible.
Evening fishing is always special. When dusk sets in, the fish rise aggressively onto large black flies.
We tried the nymph and it didn't work. Now the sun has gone down and it's turned darker. So now we want to move in with a larger fly. Put on a big sunker here, and these are very good when it's dark. So we'll try this. It's always very exciting to fish at night because, you know, the strike comes just like a lightning. And they really hammer the fly. Get the fly as close to the other bank as possible. Let it come down. And one jerk in the line. And you expect it anytime, any minute, any second. You really have to believe in it when you fish it. You really have to move your thoughts out to the fly, being the fly. Got it. When they hit, they really hit hard. He really hit it, this one here. He's really heavy. He's really hanging the button. He really hit the fly, this one. I haven't seen him yet. He's still standing at the same place. Totally amazing hit. I see I'm putting quite a good pressure on him. I'm trying to lift the fish up. But he's just not moving. He's just swimming upstream very slowly. Oh, he is good. He's a good fish. Very good fish. Oh, he's kind of leaving. He's giving after. He is good. I don't like the shallow water. Come on. Yeah, come on. Gotcha. Gotcha. Beautiful fish. Absolutely beautiful. That kind of shaked up one man. We got him. Beautiful fish. See, when they hit in the dark, these fighters, you really get a good fight. No doubt. Fantastic. A really Rio Grande sea trout. Perfect.
Henrik Mortensen will be your instructor and fishing guide for the duration of this film. We'll be traveling widely from simple, basic casting exercises for both single and double-handed rods to some of the world's best salmon rivers in Iceland.
Beautiful fish. What can you say, huh? Amazing, isn't it? Salmon fishing when it's best.
He's often been called one of the world's best fly casters and salmon fishermen. Henrik has a simple yet effective fishing philosophy. Rule number one is that your cast is not perfect until you're able to present the fly to the fish in the right way.
Oh!
The first point is to let the rod do the work while you use as little effort as possible. If you use your rod correctly, it will do the work. The less effort you put into each cast, the more hours you can fish. Pay attention to the hand grip and see how easily a large 14-foot rod can send off the fly in one long cast and a single coordinated movement. Raising the line is generally a neglected movement in the cast, Raising is the first movement. This is where you begin your cast.
Yeah, we got it. Lying just on top of the neck.
In the forward cast, it becomes evident if your front stop is too late. That gives a large and open loop with lots of air resistance and little fall time, so avoid that.
Everything gets much more nice, much more smooth when you use the body at the same time. And you can angle the line out suddenly. There. Now we're going to try another technique. We tried the hits and it seems like it doesn't work today, so what we want to do now, we want to try the Francis technique. This is the fly you cast upstream and get down, and then you actually raise the fly right in the face of the fish. And it is like this. Either he takes the fly or he leaves the spot. It is in a way like raiding the pool, but it is efficient. And this is the last one I try always. You know, if I've been to a pool and tried everything else, then I want to try this one because I've had a lot of success with it. This fly's coming up. Now he's coming, he's coming, he's coming, he's got it. What we have to do now is keep the fish in the pool and get him tired there, and then we got about 1 chance or 2 chances to land him, and that's it. Because this is a long stretch, and if he gets down in the hard water there, it's over. Oh, maybe once again. And there he got it. Oh, he's really moving now. Moving big time. Oh, gee. What a jump. So the point is here, learn the basics and you'll be able to do so many things with this cast. So you can just play with it in the air, you can do anything. Just matter that the leader is the one that's going to be on the surface. As long as the leader's on the surface, when you go forward, you'll have the tension on the rod and you'll be able to cast anywhere. And you can put in as many circles as you like, actually. Look at this one, for example. 2 circles, leader back in the water and out. Do it one more time. 2 circles, leader in the water and out. You can do whatever you like. Life is so much more fun as a salmon angler when you control all those casts.